Crystal Palace have just blown Aston Villa out the water in the FA Cup semi-final. Crystal Palace 3, Aston Villa 0, and I didn't expect that, not at all. So firstly, we need to congratulate Crystal Palace because I thought tactically, their application-wise, they were absolutely sensational. Every man executed their roles and responsibilities to perfection. Oliver Glasner knew his midfield overloads would cause Aston Villa problems, and that's exactly what we're seeing. So we are going to be breaking it all down, and I'm going to be honest, Aston Villa fans, if you don't want to hear some hard truths, then you better turn away now. But I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, he was poor, let's blame this player, let's blame that player. I want to sit here and tactically look at both teams unbiasedly and just see where it went wrong for Crystal Palace. Sorry, wrong for Aston Villa, but absolutely spot on for Crystal Palace. And what a result for Crystal Palace fans. And they've had some tough times because they've just been existing in the Premier League for a long, long time. So for them fans, this means everything. I'm not saying it wouldn't for Aston Villa, and it would have been exceptional for Aston Villa to reach an FA Cup final. Aston Villa have had a run in the Champions League. They've had a wonderful season. They've enjoyed some wonderful moments. This was all about Crystal Palace's moment. So everything I say today isn't a take away from Crystal Palace because they were absolutely sensational. And again, Aston Villa fans won't like me saying this, but I must be honest. In my videos, and Unai Emery got it tactically wrong. If any of you have watched my Newcastle previews, you probably haven't, but every time we've come up against a three at the back, whether that be Crystal Palace, Man United this season, Wolves, or any team that play three at the back, I always say, even before ball is kicked, Newcastle United have an advantage, even before ball is kicked, because a 4-3-3 system is the most effective way to play against a three at the back. It allows you to exploit space, it allows you to create overloads, it takes away the opposition threat, and enables you to win the midfield battle. So we are going to be looking at a tactics board, but we're also going to be breaking down images from the game to show you exactly what I mean. So I kind of feel like Unai Emery got it wrong tactically before ball was even kicked. Now, sometimes you can be effective playing the way Unai Emery plays, but Aston Villa have got a terrible record against Crystal Palace, and sometimes you've got to adapt. Usually, Unai Emery is very good at adapting. I just thought tactically he got it wrong, but player personnel, he got it wrong. So let's dive into the tactics board. And this is a tactics board, guys. I don't know why the numbers aren't in the balls, but we've just got to make shift. Never mind the numbers. I've just put numbers out there. The blue is Crystal Palace. The purple is Aston Villa. And this is how both teams set up. Crystal Palace in their 3-4-2-1 formation, Aston Villa in their 4-2-3-1 formation. That is usually their ideal formations. Now, sometimes you do have to adapt, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. So let's play a game. Let's pretend that I'm Aston Villa and Unai Emery's first team analyst. Yes, check me. I'm an analyst, and I'm going up to Unai Emery. I'm knocking on his door before this game even happens, knocking on his door and telling him exactly how I feel the game will go and what formation we should play to counter-attack and beat Crystal Palace, because that's what analysts do. Whether the manager wants to listen or not, that's his prerogative. But an analyst breaks down the opposition, thinks of a formation, thinks of a player personnel on how to beat the opposition. So this is exactly what I would be telling Unai Emery before even the game kicked off. I'd be sitting there saying, let's not play a 4-2-3-1 because usually Crystal Palace have beaten us or played very well against us. There must be a reason behind that. And the most effective way to play against a three at the back is play a 4-3-3. So what I would have done before, I would have been showing Unai Emery this and saying, let's set up like this. And what I would have done is I would have dropped Asensio. I wouldn't play Asensio because he doesn't offer you much defensively. So I would have boxed the midfield. I would have played Yuri Tillemans, probably Unana and Kamara, but you can get away with playing McGinn. I would have played 3 out of those 4 in the middle. And then I would have played Morgan Rogers on the left because I don't like him on the right. He drifts in and out of games. He doesn't look comfortable on the right. I would play him on the left. And then I would bring in Leon Bailey because in this kind of setup, against a three at the back, you need touchline wingers. Leon Bailey offers you a different profile to what any other wide player at Aston Villa does. And I kind of feel like his one-on-one ability, his comfortable ability in wide areas, his ability to receive in wide areas would have worried Crystal Palace. Now I'll show you exactly why. Because what Crystal Palace want to do effectively is create a box shape in the middle. So that means they've always got an overload, so that you can clearly see the box shape there. And then they are the wide players who provide that width. So their fullbacks are the wing backs who provide the width, and they've always got an overload in there. Now, if you set up with a 3-man overload, what that does is makes Crystal Palace worry about what's behind them instead of let's attack going forward because we've got the overload. Yesterday, Aston Villa were far worried about what was behind them because Crystal Palace always had that overload in the middle of the pitch. But when you set up with a 3 in the middle, what that does is it completely dismantles that box shape. So just imagine this. Morgan Rogers can come in there if he wants to. He's providing width on there. But imagine this. You've got John McGinn, Kamara, Tielemans. One of these two have to drop deep. So then you've got a 3-on-3. He can pick. You're happy leaving him because what they can do is your 2 centre-backs can go to a man-to-man press. So then you're taking the initiative in this game. You're affecting their formation. You're not allowing the opposition to get into what they want to do or get in any rhythm. So that's exactly what I was talking about. Now, because Asensio doesn't offer you much going forward, when Aston Villa were playing like this, imagine that's Asensio, number 11, you had Aston Villa's 2 midfielders getting completely overran because this was happening. This was happening time and time again. Either Wharton was receiving possession. Every time he received possession, if Tielemans went to close him down, he's got multiple options where he can play the ball. And this is why we're seeing Crystal Palace have hardly any possession, but be so effective and efficient in possession because they didn't need to dwell on the ball or receive the ball and then look for an option. Every time the ball was arriving, they always had 2 or 3 options because they always had overloads in the middle. But not only that, it also allows you to be effective in wide areas against a 3 at the back. Because against a 3 at the back, ideally, what you want to do is force them into places they don't want to be, right? So just imagine what you want to do is take away their threat in the wider areas. So imagine you've got Mitchell here. If Leon Bailey's acting as a touchline winger, I might put him back in there. And then Matty Cash is here. You've got a 2-on-1 in wide areas. So you've got the better of the midfield, but you've also got a 2-on-1 in wide areas. So if the ball, let's get a little ball on the pitch. Oh, I can't because it's right. Imagine a ball. Imagine this is the ball, right? Leon Bailey's got the ball. He's got to come back with him. And that allows you to create overloads. But what does that do? It forces their centre-backs into spaces they don't want to go because he has to make it a 2v2 out there. And that allows Watkins to have more space to operate in. It allows Watkins to isolate him. And this is what I would be showing Unai Emery before the game because theoretically what you've done is dismantle Crystal Palace's shape and made give you the initiative in this game. And that's exactly what I would be saying. And then lastly, I want to point out when I spoke about he made the wrong selections in terms of profiles. I know Leon Bailey isn't your best winger. I understand he's not your best winger, but he's probably your quickest winger and he's probably the most threatening when just hogging the touchline and in one-on-one situations. And that's why I would have started him because he plays an important role. Remember, football's played on profiles and partnerships. If you went to a 4-3-3, Leon Bailey's profile would have been better suited in this game because against wing-backs, you want to exploit the space in wide areas. And that's where I feel like Unai Emery didn't really identify and capitalize on. And the reason why I would have started Tyrone Mings because he's got more physicality than Pau Torres. I understand Pau Torres is better in possession, but Mateta, you need to go physical for physical with him. You need a centre-back that's just as physical, that's comfortable in combative situations to go like for like with Mateta because Mateta completely bullied Pau Torres. And that's the honest truth. He was running off the ball. He was powerful. He was big. He was strong. Pau Torres was bouncing off him. And that's exactly why I would have started Tyrone Mings. And I'm not just saying this in hindsight, because I said this before the game as well. And it's something that I've said in previous videos when you come up against a 3 at the back. I've said it so many times. Newcastle didn't play well against Wolves, but we'll beat them 3-0. Wolves were actually a better team on the day, but we were more effective because of our formation. And this is what I'm talking about. So you might agree, you might disagree, but I want to know your thoughts on the below. But I want to look at a few examples on the pitch as well. And this is the first image I want to speak about because this was in the opening minutes of the game, and you can clearly see Crystal Palace's plan. That was to use the space effectively, create that box shape, have Mateta isolating his centre-back in one-on-one situations, and this happens because once Mateta gets on his bike, he's a handful. Because this sort of thing happens, he bullies you. Yes, it didn't score from this opportunity and it was a goal that was disallowed, but this set the tone. This allowed you to acknowledge exactly what Crystal Palace were trying to do. But let's look at what I was talking about the overloads. You can clearly see you've got Tielemans in the middle of the park, but then you've got John McGinn, you've got Eze in this situation. Sorry, it's not Eze, it's Mateta, who's dropped deep to create that overload. And then you've got Saw, who's running into space. And then what they were doing is going to a man-to-man press, but they always had that extra man. And this forced Aston Villa to play backwards, play a negative pass. And once you play a negative pass, this is exactly what happens. You overturn the ball because Pau Torres tried to clear the ball. It hits Saw, and then Crystal Palace are in the ascendancy. And I always say movement kills in football. And that's exactly what we're seeing in this situation. Munoz makes Pau Torres go into this situation because he moves off the ball. He doesn't receive the ball, but he's affecting the game. And this is where Saw cuts inside. He beats Matty Cash too easily. And this is where Crystal Palace's opening goal come from. But let's just appreciate this strike from Eze a second, because the technical ability, the balance, the way he gets his head over the ball to direct it accurately, the venom in the strike, it was ferocious. In truth, you might say Martinez could have done better, but that strike is ferocious. And I don't think we'll appreciate the speed and the pace on these footballs when you're playing at this level. But I think Martinez thinks he's going into that corner. I think Martinez thinks he's going to try and bend it into Martinez's left-hand side, and he takes a step that way, and then Eze puts it in the other corner. Excellent from Eze, honestly. A sensational strike. Now, instead of looking at the goals, we're just going to be breaking down a few images of exactly what I was meaning about Crystal Palace, creating those overloads in the middle, but their efficiency and pass selection was absolutely sensational. As you can see, Wharton receives the ball here. He's got literally 5 yards around him. That shouldn't happen. Look at Tielemans. He's got his arms out saying, "Where's me help?" Because continuously, Crystal Palace always had an overload. They always had an extra man to play the ball to. So even if Tielemans tries to close down Wharton, he's got 3 options to play to. And this was happening time and time again. So really, it was Crystal Palace in the ascendancy from minute 1. Again, look at the movers off the ball. A 5 against 3 here. Crystal Palace's 5 against Aston Villa's 3 defenders. And they were just getting caught out time and time again. They were leaving too much space. And because they were creating this box shape, and here's an example when Crystal Palace are out of possession as well. Even if Tielemans receives that ball, he's got nowhere to go. He's got to receive the ball, take a touch, and then look up. Ideally, you want to be in a situation where your speed of thought, before you even receive the ball, you know exactly what your next option is. That's what Crystal Palace were doing right. That's what Aston Villa were doing wrong. And that's just because they were creating overloads that they always had an option, even when before they received the ball. And this is a prime example of that box shape I was talking about. This time it's Mateta coming back in because it's defending rather than attacking. But as you can see, Tielemans, he can't receive the ball in this area because on his first touch, he's just going to get dispossessed. If it goes out Matty Cash, Crystal Palace are happy because they just shift across. So literally, Aston Villa, every time they had the ball, they couldn't break through the lines because they didn't have that extra man to find a pass to. Again, this is a prime example where Ross Barkley tries to receive it in the middle of the park. He's got nowhere to go. And as you can see, Crystal Palace have got that overload. You've got 3 against 2 in the middle there. So every single time Crystal Palace had an overload, and it was forcing Aston Villa backwards, and that's why they were kept on getting put in negative situations. So this is exactly what Unai Emery will be looking at after the game. So continuously, Crystal Palace always had this, where they received the ball in yards of space so they could easily just find a pass, because it wasn't because of the effort of Aston Villa players, because I actually think we were putting in the effort. It's just because they couldn't do anything, because they got tactically outsmarted. So pretty much 9 times out of 10, every time Aston Villa were trying to play forwards, they ended up going backwards. So full credit to Crystal Palace, because I thought their press, everything about their shape, their pass selection, their ability, that understanding of each other's roles and responsibilities was absolutely sensational. Honestly, quality stuff from Oliver Glasner. But again, I just want to appreciate some moments in the game because this pass, this disguised pass from Adam Wharton is sensational. Usually in this situation, the midfielder takes a touch, then has a strike. But the beauty, the vision of find Eze, Kamara dives in. He's the wrong side of Eze here, and it shouldn't happen. But let's just appreciate that pass because it was simply sensational. And I kind of feel like for Crystal Palace's last goal, I kind of feel Aston Villa were just all over the shop. They didn't know whether to close a space. They didn't know whether to go to a man-to-man press. And then this happens. Matty Cash or Pau Torres has to close the space there. But again, I don't want to just single out some individuals because I just thought collectively, Crystal Palace got it spot on and Aston Villa got it wrong. And that's my brute, honest opinion. So although there was some individual mistakes, and yes, in one-on-one situations, Aston Villa could have been a little bit better, but let's give credit to Crystal Palace because they tactically got it spot on. And this is what I'm talking about. Sometimes you can't just put your best players out on the pitch and expect to win every game of football. Sometimes you need to adapt. Usually Unai Emery is great at adapting, but yesterday, in my opinion, he got it all wrong. But it's not about my opinion because it's easy for me to sit here as a non-Aston Villa fan and say, oh, you should have done this, should have done that. I want to hear your opinion because you are more invested in the club. Do you think I'm right or I'm happy to be proven wrong? Let me know in the comments below. But that's exactly what would have happened before and after the game. If I was Unai Emery's analyst, I'd be telling them, look, let's change your formation. Let's switch it up a bit. We haven't got a good record against Crystal Palace, so there must be a reason behind that. That's just me personally. Even if you went to a 4-3-3, might not have been your day, but I definitely feel like you would have put a better showing in that game of football, in my opinion. But look, if you've enjoyed this video, I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments below, but let's try and get at least 100 likes on this video. I don't think I've ever had 100 likes before, but that's just me being honest. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and until next time, away the Villa. Good luck Palace in the final. I'm rooting for you in the final. I want Palace to win it, so good luck.